Barbara Jane Mackle was the 20-year-old daughter of a wealthy Florida land developer. While attending university in Atlanta, Georgia, Barbara had fallen ill, at which time her mother traveled to Atlanta to take her back to the family home for Christmas break. Along the way they stayed at a roadway inn in Decatur. On December 17, 1968, Gary Christ and his accomplice disguised themselves as police officers and knocked on the door. Christ told Barbara that a friend of hers had been in a traffic accident. Once inside, Gary and Ruth chloroformed then bound and gagged Mackle's mother. Barbara was then forced at gunpoint into the back of their waiting car. They drove to a remote pine stand in Gwinnett County near Duluth and buried her in a shallow trench inside a fiberglass-reinforced box. The box was outfitted with an air pump, a battery-powered lamp, water laced with sedatives and food. 2 plastic pipes provided Mackle with outside air. Ruth and Chris demanded a $500,000 ransom from Mackle's father. The first attempt at a ransom drop was disrupted when 2 policemen drove by. The kidnappers then fled on foot. The FBI found their car abandoned. Inside the car, the FBI found photographs of a man with a policeman's hat, and the car registration in the name of George Deacon. The second ransom drop was successful, but there was no word from the kidnappers. The FBI was able to trace George Deacon to the University of Miami, where he built ventilated boxes for a living. Deacon's boss provided the name of Ruth Eismanshire, who also worked at the university. Someone Deacon spent time with. The FBI was contacted by a local man in Georgia claiming he had just bought a small trailer from a man and found some odd paperwork inside. The FBI discovered letters addressed to George Deacon and Gary Christ, an escapee from California prison. The FBI compared the prints found in the car to the ones found in Christ's file. George Deacon was actually Gary Christ. On December 20th, Christ called and gave vague directions to Mackle's burial place to a switchboard operator of the FBI. More than 100 FBI agents spread out through the area in an attempt to find her. Mackle was found and rescued after spending more than 3 days buried underground. She was suffering from dehydration but otherwise unharmed. Christ was arrested after a tip led a search that began on December 20, 1968, and went on through half the night. He was found hiding in a swamp in Florida. Eismanshire was arrested March 5, 1969 in Norman, Oklahoma. She had applied for a job at a hospital, and as part of the background check a fingerprint match was found by the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation. She was convicted and sentenced to 7 years in prison, paroled after serving 4 years, and deported to Honduras. Gary Christ was convicted and sentenced to life in prison in 1969, but was released on parole after 10 years. Barbara Mackle, with the help of Jean Miller, wrote a book about her experience, 83 Hours Till Dawn, published in 1971. ABC aired the story in 1972 as part of its Movie of the Week showcase under the title The Longest Night. The book was made into a second television movie, 83 Hours Till Dawn, in 1990. Christ also wrote a book titled Life, The Man Who Kidnapped Barbara Jane Mackle, published in 1972. Mackle was asked how she had remained so positive not only during the kidnapping but after. She claimed she would imagine spending Christmas with her family and never doubted she would be rescued. Barbara married Stuart Woodward in 1971 and lived a long, fulfilled life.